Well, this is a card we haven't seen for a while. It's Flareon GX. Welcome back, everyone, to more from the Stabilize. I'm Mitch, and today we're going to take a look at Flareon GX in a deck list that is going to utilize Shuckle's Fresh Squeeze to get as many energy in the bin as possible so that we can take a knockout with the GX attack. We've got Victini Prism in here as well. It's a really cool list we found on Twitter thanks to Cashman. If you want to follow us or him, jump onto Twitter. We are at the Stabilize_YT, so jump on board and follow along there. And if you haven't already decided to subscribe to the channel, then please consider doing so. Only about 30% of people who watch our content are subscribed. It's free, it only takes a second, and you can always unsubscribe if you'd like. There's no pressure here at all. So yeah, without further ado, we'll take a look at the list and see exactly how Flareon GX is going to work. So Flareon is a card that has been around for quite a while. It's one of those old Sun and Moon promos that kind of exists in its own little vacuum that no one really thinks about, but when you do, they are pretty good cards. And we are going to focus on the GX attack for Flareon. It is Power Burner, which does 20 damage times the amount of energy cards, fire energy cards, in our discard pile. So that's the exact same number of damage as Victini Prism, except we aren't going to be shuffling those energy back into the deck. So if we've got a ton of energy in the discard pile, we're going to be able to get a heap of damage off, which is going to be great. We also have Bright Flame for 190 as a backup option for us. If we need to, we can deal with things like Dedennes, even some kind of sketchy Oricorios or things like that that are floating around. We will need to discard 2 fire energy from the Flareon to do this, but we will be powering up Power Burner, which is good. We also have Heat Stage, which is a handy 30 damage, which can attach up to 3 fire energy from our hand to our Pokemon in any way we like. And that's going to be really useful because we actually play 20 fire energy in this list. We want to get a ton of them in the bin, but we're likely to have a lot of them in our hand as well. And an interesting little interaction that you can do with Heat Stage does 30. That's 60 to a Jirachi with a Zigzagoon. You can take a knockout on that. That's easy done. So a nice free prize with Heat Stage if you get the chance. We also have a couple of other attackers. I mentioned Victini Prism. It's got Infinity, which is going to do the exact same thing as our GX attack. It's going to do 20 damage, just like Power Burner, for every fire energy in our discard pile. This one does basic energy, so if we were to put other energy cards in there, then we could potentially put them back into the deck. But for our purposes, we're only using fire ones, and then we shuffle those cards back into the deck. So Victini, we're going to try and use for our last few prizes, and Flareon we'll use for our first few. Now, we also have Reshiram and Charizard in the list as well. We want to make sure that we've got ourselves an attacker that doesn't rely on other variables in the discard pile. Flare Strike for 230 is always pretty good, and Double Blaze is a decent attack that we can use. If we go second, we can get 200 damage off in the first turn. That's pretty good. Take a knockout on a Zacian and things like that. So it is definitely worth considering. Outrage as well is very powerful, especially in this format, because there's actually not a lot of Pokemon right now that are doing 270, apart from obviously Zacian after an ADP GX attack. That's going to get to 270 relatively easily. But things like Dragapult, Pikarom, those kind of decks are going to struggle to get to 270. Outrage is actually pretty strong. So we've got those 3 attackers. I mentioned the Zigzagoon, which can be helpful with kind of one-off little damage hits here and there. But the key for the deck is Shuckle. We have 3 copies of Shuckle with Fresh Squeezed in the list. What we're going to do is we're going to play these Shuckles down and put 3 basic energy from our deck into our discard pile. Now, normally that's not that amazing an ability, but when we're trying to get a ton of energy into the discard pile quickly, Shuckle will do that for us. It's going to be super, super good. If we can get a couple of them down, maybe we can scoop them up and use them again. We'll be able to put energy from the deck into the discard pile. There's 20 energy in this list. That is 1/3 of the deck. So we not only get a ton of energy in the bin for things like, oh, not Reshiram, I meant to click on the Victini, like Victini or our Flareon. Not only do we get that energy in the bin, but we also thin out our deck, so we're more likely to see the cards that we want. Now, we don't play things like Jirachi in this deck. Instead, we only play Dedenne for Pokemon Draw. That's why We have 3 copies of Cherish Ball in the list. We also have Quick Ball, obviously, will find us some stuff. Cherish Ball is actually going to find us pretty much all of our attackers, apart from Victini. It's going to be able to find Flareon GX and Reshiram, so we should be good to go with that. We also have access to Fire Crystal, so all those energies in the bin we can find with Fire Crystal and get them back into our hand, so that we can use one of our 4 copies of Welder to power up our attackers if we need them. Obviously, Flareon only has a 1 energy GX attack, but its second attack does require a little bit more investment, so Welder is going to be required. We also have 3 copies of Marnie in this list. It's our only disruption card. We don't play Reset Stamp or anything like that. And we play 2 copies of Boss's Orders as well, because the deck kind of relies on taking knockouts on specific targets. You want to take 2 Tag Team or VMAX Pokemon as knockouts, and that's usually the way you're going to go about winning the game. So as long as you have a Boss's Orders left to gust out what you want, you should be a-okay. As for the rest of the list, I mean, it's nothing too crazy. We've got a copy of Tool Scrapper to get rid of things like that metal frying pan, which is really annoying, getting rid of weakness. It's going to be very frustrating for us. And then we've got our Stadiums, Giant Hearth, and obviously Heat Factory. Both of those cards super good in fire decks. What we're going to do is we're going to take this one out onto the ladder. Flareon GX does very well, especially if you get a little bit of luck and you go first. Power Burner can take a big knockout, so we'll see if we can get that to happen. We'll jump on the ladder and see exactly how it goes. So we'll see if we can get the combo off here, whether or not we're going to be able to take some knockouts with Flareon and Victini is up in the air, but you never know. As long as we're playing against the tag team deck, anything is possible. We're going second here, which is unfortunate. That hand isn't going to do us any good, so we'll shuffle in another one. Now, our opponent has grass deck sleeves here, so we could be in a position where we're able to win the game on weakness. That would be pretty good. Be happy with that. This very easily could be the Rillaboom deck that is floating around at the moment. We've got a Shuckle in the active and a Shuckle in our hand. So we're not going to be able to get ourselves a Flareon too quickly unless this Marnie works for us. We are going to be able to get a couple of energy though in the bin, potentially up to 6. We have that Scoop Up Net as well. So our opponent going for the tag call early. I imagine they're probably going to be grabbing a Row Eggs and something else. They've grabbed Mallow and Lana. Could potentially have gone for Guzmahala as well. That might have been worth getting to grab an energy, but that suggests they already have what they need in hand. That's a Capture Energy. They've got themselves a Grookey onto the bench. So this deck is relatively consistent in its setup. The power is going to be interesting to see whether they can maintain the pressure whilst we're taking one-shots. It depends on whether they're using just Capture Energy or if they have Weak Guard as well. Top decking of Heat Factory is pretty strong. We can play that down and draw ourselves some more cards. But first we'll use Shuckle. We can put 3 Fire Energy in the discard using Fresh Squeezed. So we're not going to draw into those off of the Heat Factory. We can attach to the Shuckle and then Marnie. We're kind of giving up our attachment to another Pokemon here, but we are going to give ourselves an opportunity to draw some more with Heat Factory. We'll use Cherish Ball first. Now the question is, do we get the Dedenne or Reshiram here? I think because we've got Welder in hand that we go for Reshiram. There's so many energy in this deck that chances are off this Heat Factory we get something as well. That's actually really, really strong for us. We've got 2 Fire Energy and we've got access to Welder next turn as well. So even if they do remove the Heat Factory, we should be good to go. Now, they've managed to play down a Shaman here. I think the key for them is they're going to go for Super Growth, but they want to get Weak Guard Energy onto that Row Eggs if they have it. If they don't, then we could easily just take a knockout on this Row Eggs with our GX attack, and it looks like they are going to attach and then Super Growth. We're in a really strong spot here. We're probably not going to be able to attack with Flareon anytime soon, but we will be able to take a knockout with Reshiram's GX attack. We managed to top deck energy there, so it's going to be real easy for us. We'll Welder onto that Reshiram, a couple of energy, and see what we get. We've got a Shuckle and a Scoop Up Net, so we can play down a Shuckle. Oops, we'll play down a Shuckle properly. Then we'll use Fresh Squeezed, yes, and get a few energy out of the bin, into the bin. So there's 5 left, so we can probably use 1 more Shuckle. We might even use the one that's in the active. But first, we'll use Dedenne. I think grabbing that off the Cherish Ball. We'll scoop up the Shuckle, and I think that's probably worth doing. We've got 2 Scoop Up Nets now off of the Heat Factory, so we're going to probably scoop up the Shuckle, put one of them back into play, and then we'll have 2 energy left in deck for our Victini when we need it. So that's going to be good for us. 9 energy in the bin at the moment, so we can go for 1 more. We also have a lot of energy in the prizes, so we're likely to unprize them here off of our 3 prizes that we're about to take. So just because there's 2 left in the deck doesn't mean that there's only 2 left, period. We'll use the Dedenne here and draw some more cards. We've got Welder and an Eevee as well. That's pretty cool. So we might be able to get the Flareon into play. And then Double Blaze GX. We'll do 400 damage and we'll take 3 prizes. So now if ever our opponent has a Rillaboom VMAX and no weak guard energy, then we should be in a good spot. Wait and see how we go here. Our opponent is going to probably deal a solid amount of damage here. Rillaboom V could potentially take a knockout, though they will need a little bit of extra energy. They're actually not going to be able to get them, I don't think, this turn. So we'll see how our opponent goes here. Actually, the Rillaboom V maybe isn't the best play. They're going to go into the Shaman. Oh, they've got a Dedenne. Okay, so I guess they're just hoping for a switch then, or they're hoping for the VMAX potentially. That's good for us, because it means if we find a boss's orders, we could just attach and win this game. They do have the switch though, so they'll Flower Storm, and that's not too bad for us. They've actually got Guz Mahala as well, so they might be able to find a weak guard energy if they have it in deck. They do. Okay, so we might actually regret playing that Dedenne down, because if we hadn't, we would have just been able to have boss's orders to win here, but at this stage of the game, I think it's just a matter of doing some thinning. We'll quick ball some stuff out. I'll just grab this Dedenne here. We don't really need to worry too much. We are going to evolve into Flareon, and then we will Welder. Oh, actually, this is probably a bit of a mistake. I probably should have used Fire Crystal there to get some energy back. I guess I'll just split the difference here, and I'll put one on Victini. And then we'll Outrage, we'll take a knockout, because we've got enough damage on us to deal with that Shaman. Hopefully that energy placement doesn't come back to bite us here. It might very well do, which would be disappointing. Yeah, okay, so what we're going to do here, they're going to play down the weak guard energy. They have Life Forest as well, which is a bit disappointing, but we'll be able to replace that with Giant Hearth. They're going to probably be able to take a knockout on this Reshiram. And yeah, I think that having that energy on the Flareon is probably going to cost us an opportunity at a knockout here. We have 15 energy in the discard. I don't think there's that many more left in the deck, so we'll just chuck up the Flareon now. I think that's probably fine. I don't think we're going to be able to take a knockout on that Rillaboom. 15 energy in the discard, surprisingly enough, is not enough. We'll do some more thinning. We'll grab this Eevee. Oh, we actually had 1 more left in deck. Oh my god. Okay, so we could have done that if we had have actually been intelligent here. We would have been able to get the Flareon, the knockout with the Victini, and of course now we don't have access to the Victini because our Flareon has to retreat. Okay, so I guess we'll attach to the Victini here. This is fine, and then we'll just heat stage, I think. We'll hold on to the boss, because if we do find ourselves another Pokemon search card or something like that, we can use that to get our last couple of prizes. That's so disappointing. That was just a complete and utter stuff up. If we had just put that energy onto the Flareon, we would have won that game then, even with a weakness card energy on that Rillaboom VMAX. We would have done an insane amount of... Oh, no, 16 is only 320. Okay, so maybe it's not that big of a deal. Oh, I don't know what's going on. 320, so we would have missed it by 10, but, you know, that's okay. 320 is still a really, really good number to be hitting with a Victini Prism. You know, hey, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. We're gonna be okay. It's just a matter of what our opponent chooses to do here, since we have got a ton of energy in the discard. If they choose to knock us out, which it looks like they're gonna have to do, we should be able to just take the game with Victini. We've got 15 energy in the bin now, 16 with the 1 in the active, so we should be able to do that damage and take the knockout. I've actually put down another VMAX on the bench for us, so we could even boss's orders that one out and take the knockout with Victini Prism for 640 or however much damage it is. It's going to be very, very large. there is the knockout. So we've won this game. It's just a matter of what we want to take our final knockout on. We've got the boss, so we are good to go here. Even if we didn't have it, we could Infinity for more than enough damage to win the game. We'll Boss's Orders out that Rillaboom VMAX and then Infinity, and we'll do 640 damage, shuffling in 16 Fire Energy. There you go. We didn't get to use Flareon, but Victini did the job. So hey, that's a fun little deck that you can very easily get your hands on. It's not too expensive. The Dedennes might do you a little bit there. They'll get a couple of packs out of you, but the rest of the list is very easy to put together, and it is capable of beating pretty much anything if you get lucky and get a few of those energy in the bin very, very early. Flareon is such a cool card, and I'm glad that we stumbled upon this list on Twitter to play it on PTCGO. It's a lot of fun. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming along and checking this one out. We always appreciate your company. If you're interested in following us on Facebook or Twitter, the link is up there in the top there, the Sableyes_YT. Apart from that, you can always consider subscribing. Click the button just here to do that. There are some videos that YouTube thinks you'll like over here, as well as a playlist for more of our Rebel Clash deck lists in the bottom right-hand corner. Apart from that, we'll end the video there. Thanks very much for coming, and we'll see you next time for more from the Sableyes. Bye.